Caravan holidays in the USA are not just trips. They are odysseys across a land that feels too vast to be contained in a single lifetime. Imagine this. The road stretching endlessly before you, a silver ribbon shimmering under the weight of the sun, while behind you your little moving home hums quietly with the promise of comfort. You aren't bound to a single destination. Your freedom is measured in miles, in horizons, in the sudden decision to stop where the world seems most alive. It begins with the gentle clink of coffee mugs in the morning, the caravan door opening to a world that feels borrowed just for a day. One night you might find yourself parked beneath the towering silhouettes of the Rockies, the air crisp and filled with the scent of pine. Another night, you could be lulled to sleep by the rhythmic hush of waves on the Californian coast. Each stop on the journey feels like a secret only you were meant to uncover. What makes caravan holidays so fascinating in the United States is their tapestry of contrasts. You might glide through the glowing deserts of Arizona, red sands glowing like embers at dusk, only to wake a few days later in the lush green embrace of Vermont's countryside, where rolling hills and covered bridges whisper stories from centuries past. On one road you chase the tumbleweed, on another you chase the golden leaves of fall that scatter across the asphalt like drifting coins. There's a quiet thrill in knowing your path isn't fixed. You could pass through Route 66, stopping at diners that look frozen in time, neon signs flickering like old memories. Or you could veer north, following the Great Lakes, where the water stretches so far it tricks the eye into believing you've found the ocean. Along the way, strangers become storytellers, campground neighbors, fellow travelers at rest stops, each offering pieces of their own adventures like fragments of a greater map. And then there are the nights. Nights when the caravan feels like a lantern in the dark, warm light spilling through its windows as coyotes call in the distance. Nights when you sit outside by a small fire, tracing constellations across skies so wide they make you feel both insignificant and infinite all at once. Nights when silence is so deep you can hear your own heartbeat, and suddenly the world doesn't feel so rushed, so urgent. But perhaps the true magic lies in the small details. The way a child's laughter echoes as they chase fireflies through a campground meadow. The smell of pancakes cooked on a portable stove, drifting into the cool morning air. The satisfaction of finding a hidden waterfall because you decided to take a turn the map didn't recommend. These moments stitch themselves into memory, not as a grand narrative, but as a collection of luminous threads that stay with you long after the road has faded behind. And yet, for every place discovered, there is another waiting. Road still unseen, landscape still untouched by your tires, sunset still waiting to paint your windows in amber and rose. That's the allure of caravan holidays in the USA. The story is never finished, only paused until the next journey begins. The journey often feels like a living, breathing novel, with each mile adding a fresh paragraph. You start to realize that America's vastness is more than just geography. It's a kind of spirit that seeps into you the longer you travel its highways. The caravan becomes more than a vehicle. It transforms into a vessel of discovery, carrying you not just across landscapes but deeper into the heart of the country. Every town you pass through has its own rhythm, every rest stop its own peculiar character, every conversation its own flavor. You begin to see how the stories of people and places intertwine, like rivers feeding into the same great ocean. Somewhere in the southwest, the desert offers its strange, magnetic silence. The earth glows in hues of orange and gold, shadows growing long against the jagged cliffs. You pull over at a spot where the sky feels endless, and as the caravan door swings open, the heat rolls in like a heavy blanket. But as night falls, the desert cools, and the stars explode overhead with such clarity that you can't help but tilt your head back and lose yourself in their immensity. Here, the caravan feels like a sanctuary, a small bubble of warmth and safety in a land that seems to belong more to the stars than to humans. Days later, the scenery changes again. You find yourself meandering through the Appalachian Mountains, where mist curls like smoke between the trees and winding roads lead to hidden hollows. Small towns greet you with wooden porches, old barns, and locals who nod with a kind of friendliness that feels both timeless and rare. You notice how every region holds onto its own traditions, its own accents, its own way of welcoming a traveler. The caravan allows you to step gently into these worlds without disturbing them, to observe and appreciate before you roll on again. The road itself begins to feel like a companion. You grow accustomed to its rhythms, the thrum of tires against asphalt, the sway of the caravan as it turns, the hum of the engine steady as a heartbeat. Even when the path grows long and empty, there's a meditative calm to it, a reminder that sometimes the in-between spaces are as rich as the destinations themselves. You find joy in the unexpected. A roadside fruit stand where peaches drip with sweetness, a field of sunflowers that seems to glow under the late afternoon sun, a mural painted on the side of a forgotten diner telling stories in colors that refuse to fade. Some mornings, you wake to the sound of rain tapping against the caravan roof. The soft percussion makes you linger in bed a little longer, wrapped in blankets, sipping coffee as the windows blur with streaks of water. The world outside feels muted, softened, as though the road is taking a pause just for you. Later, when the storm clears, you step out to find the ground shimmering with droplets, the air freshly scrubbed, and the smell of wet earth rising around you. Moments like these remind you how the caravan holiday is less about escaping life and more about immersing yourself in it. Then there are the open plains, where the horizon stretches so far you swear you can see the curve of the earth. Driving through these spaces can feel like drifting across an ocean of grass, your caravan a small ship navigating waves of golden fields. Here, the sunsets are unlike anywhere else. The sky burns in shades of crimson, violet, and molten gold, the light stretching endlessly until it melts into the land itself. You stop the caravan in the middle of this vast openness, step out, and for a moment, it feels as though you've arrived at the center of everything. What makes caravan holidays in the USA so endlessly fascinating is the sense of unpredictability. You can set out with a plan, a destination marked on a map, but the road has its own ideas. A detour might lead you to a forgotten ghost town, its wooden structures leaning under the weight of history, dust swirling like whispers of another era. A casual conversation at a gas station might point you toward a hidden lake or a trail known only to locals. In these moments, you realize the road doesn't just carry you forward. It reshapes you, teaching you to let go of control, to embrace spontaneity, to trust that the journey itself is the reward. At night, when the caravan is parked in some quiet place, you step outside and breathe deeply. The air crisp, the silence profound. Sometimes, music drifts from a nearby campfire where fellow travelers gather, trading stories beneath the stars. Other times, it's just you and the night, your caravan glowing softly behind you, the rest of the world asleep. You find that solitude doesn't feel lonely here. It feels full, rich, alive with possibility. The road has a way of sharpening your senses, making every sound, every sight, every taste feel heightened, as though life itself has grown more vivid. And so the miles keep unfurling, carrying you from one wonder to the next. You might wake to the salty tang of the Atlantic breeze one week and fall asleep to the echo of coyotes under a New Mexico moon the next. You might drive through snow that dusts the caravan in silver, or through heat so fierce you feel it radiating from the dashboard. Each experience adds another layer to the story you're living, a story written not on paper but on highways and gravel roads, in laughter and silence, in sunrises and starlight. The longer you travel, the more you come to understand that caravan holidays in the USA are less about ticking places off a list and more about stitching together a tapestry of fleeting, extraordinary moments. The joy lies not in the destination but in the act of moving, of being present in each mile, of letting the landscape teach you its lessons in patience, wonder, and humility. And with every turn of the wheel, with every horizon chased, you feel that same quiet thrill, the knowledge that the story is still unfolding, and the road ahead is waiting, full of promise, full of secrets still to be discovered. The days begin to blur into one another, not in the way routine blurs time, but in the way a dream folds into itself. You lose track of dates, of weekdays and weekends, and instead mark time by the places you've been and the skies you've seen. One morning you rise to the roar of the Pacific, waves slamming against jagged cliffs as sea spray mists the windows of your caravan. The gulls circle overhead, calling into the wind, while the horizon shimmers with light that seems to come from some otherworldly source. You brew coffee on the small stove, and its warmth fills the space, mingling with the salt in the air. It feels like the world has been distilled into this single perfect moment, as though time itself has paused to let you breathe it in. Later, when you roll inland, the land changes again. Highways cut through endless stretches of farmland, rows of corn and wheat swaying like an ocean under the wind. Farmers' markets line the roadsides, offering baskets of apples, jars of honey, loaves of bread still warm from the oven. You stop at one, and the woman behind the stall greets you as though she's known you her whole life. She tells you about the storms last spring, about her grandparents who planted the orchard, about how the land gives back what you give to it. You buy a bag of peaches, and when you bite into one, juice running down your hand, it tastes of sunlight and patience, of roots that have clung to the same soil for generations. Everywhere you go, there's a rhythm to life that feels both foreign and familiar. In the mountains, it's the slow hush of wind threading through the trees. In the deserts, it's the silence, heavy and golden. In the small towns, it's laughter spilling from front porches, the slam of screen doors, the echo of a basketball on a cracked driveway. These sounds, these textures, start to shape the soundtrack of your journey, more powerful than any playlist you could have prepared. The caravan becomes not just a vessel but an instrument, tuned to the music of the road, carrying you deeper into the heart of the country with every mile. Sometimes, though, the journey isn't easy. There are nights when storms rattle the caravan, when lightning flashes so close you feel it in your bones. Rain lashes against the windows, and the wind howls as though trying to pry open the door. You lie awake, heart beating fast, realizing that you are small, fragile against the sheer force of nature. But come morning, when the skies clear and the world glistens in fresh light, you find yourself grateful for the storm. It reminds you that beauty isn't always gentle, that it can be wild, fierce, and untamed. It teaches you that the road isn't about control but about surrender, about embracing whatever it brings. The people you meet along the way often leave the deepest impressions. At a campground near the Smoky Mountains, you share a meal with a retired couple who have been living on the road for nearly a decade. They tell you stories of Alaska's glaciers, of Florida's mangrove swamps, of the way freedom changes shape as you grow older. At a dusty roadside cafe in Nevada, a waitress with a tattoo of a swallow on her wrist tells you she's never left her hometown, but she's traveled the world through the stories of the strangers who pass through. These encounters linger long after you've driven away, shaping your journey with invisible threads, weaving you into a web of lives that stretch far beyond your own. The caravan itself begins to carry its own history. The cushions absorb the scent of campfires, the walls are nicked with tiny scratches from packed gear, the floor gathers traces of sand, pine needles, and dust from every corner of the country. Each mark, each stain, becomes a testament to where you've been. Even the creak of the door, the rattle of a loose window latch, feels like part of the story now. What once was simply a vehicle has transformed into a living memory, a journal written not with ink but with experience. As summer fades into autumn, the landscape shifts again. You drive through forests painted in shades of crimson, amber, and gold. Leaves swirl across the road like dancers, and every curve reveals another scene more breathtaking than the last. You stop at a roadside overlook, step out into the crisp air, and the view steals your breath away. Hills roll out like a patchwork quilt, glowing under the soft light of the setting sun. You sit on the caravan steps, wrapped in a blanket, sipping cider bought from a local farm stand, and you realize that this is what you've been chasing all along. Not a destination, not a single perfect place, but the feeling of being alive in the moment, wherever the road takes you. And when winter comes, the caravan carries you into landscapes dusted with snow, where frozen lakes shimmer like glass and the air bites at your cheeks. The heater hums steadily inside, while outside, the world is silent, muffled under a thick blanket of white. You park near a forest, step out into the stillness, and the crunch of snow under your boots feels like the only sound in existence. That night, the northern sky erupts in ribbons of green and violet, the aurora borealis sweeping across the horizon in waves of fire and ice. You watch from the caravan window, awestruck, knowing this is a gift that could only be found by following the road wherever it chose to lead. Through it all, you come to understand that caravan holidays in the USA are not simply about seeing the country. They're about letting the country seep into you, change you, shape you. Every landscape leaves its mark. Every encounter adds a new layer. Every mile teaches you something about patience, about wonder, about the quiet joy of simply moving forward. The story keeps unfolding, mile by mile, horizon by horizon, as though the road itself is whispering that there is always more to see, more to feel, more to discover, and you are only just beginning to understand the depth of it. The beauty of a caravan holiday in the United States is that it never truly ends. Even when the wheels stop turning and the caravan is parked, the road lingers in your mind like a song you can't forget. Every landscape, every sunset, every roadside encounter remains alive inside you, stitched together into a mosaic of experiences that no photograph can fully capture. The road is more than asphalt. It's a thread binding the spirit of a nation that is vast, restless, and endlessly changing. And you, with your moving home, become a part of that restless heartbeat, carrying within you the echoes of deserts, mountains, coastlines, and plains. Think back on the moments that seemed small at the time. A child running barefoot through a meadow chasing fireflies at dusk. The way steam curled from a mug of coffee on a misty mountain morning. The laughter of strangers who became companions for a single night by a campfire. These fragments are the true treasures of the road, glowing brighter in memory than the grandest landmark or the busiest city street. In a caravan, you learn that it's not the destination that defines the journey, but the collection of fleeting moments that remind you what it means to feel alive. As the journey winds onward, you realize the caravan has given you something even greater than freedom. It has given you intimacy with the land itself. The desert taught you silence, the mountains taught you strength, the forests taught you patience, the oceans taught you rhythm. The road became your teacher, whispering lessons in every turn, in every storm weathered, in every dawn that revealed a new horizon. You don't just pass through America on wheels. You absorb it, carrying pieces of it with you wherever you go, until your very breath feels richer for having inhaled its vastness. And when you close your eyes, you can still feel it. The sway of the caravan rocking gently in the night. The sound of rain drumming against the roof, steady as a heartbeat. The crackle of firewood as sparks flew up into a canopy of stars. The way the headlights cut through darkness like a blade, illuminating just enough of the road to keep you moving forward. These sensory imprints stay with you, looping endlessly in your memory like reels of film, each scene more vivid than the last. The truth is, a caravan holiday is not just about travel, it's about transformation. It strips away the noise of daily life, the distractions and demands, and leaves you with something raw and essential. The reminder that the world is still wide, still filled with wonder, and still waiting for you to seek it out. It reminds you that you don't need luxury to feel rich, or routine to feel secure. All you need is the open road, the will to follow it, and the courage to let it change you in ways you could never have imagined before setting out. When you return home, you'll notice it. The way the sky feels larger than you remembered. The way you crave silence because silence once held you like a gift. The way you look at maps differently now, not as lines and borders but as invitations. You'll find yourself smiling at memories in unexpected moments. The taste of peaches on a hot afternoon in Georgia, the shock of cold water from a mountain stream in Colorado, the long shadow of a saguaro cactus stretching across the desert floor in Arizona. These are not just memories. They are proof that you lived deeply, that you dared to wander and were rewarded with moments of pure, unfiltered beauty. For those who watch and listen, for those who dream of their own adventures, the caravan stands as a symbol of possibility. It tells you that life doesn't have to be confined to walls, that the world beyond your doorstep is wider than you think, that freedom is not some distant idea but a choice you can make 1 mile at a time. The caravan whispers that the road is not just for the young, the restless, or the daring. It's for anyone who believes there is still magic to be found out there, waiting just beyond the horizon. And so, when the journey pauses because it never truly ends, you are left with this magnificent truth. The United States is not just a place you visit, it is a living story that invites you to write your own chapter. From the Atlantic to the Pacific, from the red deserts to the green forests, from the humming cities to the quiet valleys, every road is a sentence, every mile a word, every stop a comma that leads to another page. You are the author of this story, and the caravan is your pen, carving a tale that belongs to no one else but you. The magnificence of it all is that the road never runs out. It waits patiently for you to return. And when you do, it greets you like an old friend, ready once again to unveil its secrets, to offer its lessons, to remind you that life, at its most beautiful, is not about reaching the end but about embracing the endlessness of the journey. The story continues to echo long after the engine has quieted, long after the campfires have burned out, long after the caravan is still, because the journey has taken root inside you. And so you carry it forward. The glow of sunsets, the vastness of skies, the chorus of rivers and winds and voices, all of it stitched into your soul. Caravan holidays in the USA are not just trips taken on wheels, but voyages into the heart of freedom itself. They remind you that the world is still a place of wonder, that you are still a traveler at heart, and that as long as roads exist and horizons beckon, the story will go on, magnificent and endless, waiting for you to live the next chapter.